What's going on? I'm KMBest, and Second Dinner just released the patch notes for a patch that has already been released. So there are a couple changes to cards, some really important changes, and some not so important changes that are just good quality of life upgrades. Let's get into it. The first change, Darkhawk got nerfed from 1 power to 0 power. All of his power is in his ongoing ability anyway. This is a relatively minor nerf, but it is, in my mind, a significant one. The average Darkhawk is going from a 4-7 to a 4-6. I mean, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's about a 13% decrease in his average power. Just the average no rock slides, just a little bit of a decrease. Of course, the more rock slides, the more Korgs, the more cards in your opponent's deck, the less that matters, but the average Darkhawk game, he's going to be a little smaller, and I think that does matter a pretty decent amount. The next change people are already getting a little bit upset about. People are already a little bit mad about this one. Thanos went from a 6-8 to a 6-11. Now, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with this. A lot of people are saying, oh, why would they buff Thanos? It's like one of the best cards in the game already. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, Thanos isn't one of the best cards in the game. The stones are the best cards in the game. Thanos himself, not really an important part of a lot of Thanos decks. Already arbitrarily large when you play all of the stones. I don't think this changes much except the flavor. It also stealthily allows him to be Shang-Chi'd. Not like the biggest balance change in the world. The worry for most people is that it seems like this means that maybe Second Dinner's a little bit out of touch with the competitive meta. Maybe they're a few weeks behind, because it does seem a little bit ridiculous to give a buff to what is, in my opinion, the strongest deck in the game. They commented that we think Thanos is one of the coolest cards, and we're a bit sad that he himself isn't played often. That's reasonable. He's not a big part of his own decks. And frankly, I don't think this changes anything. I think Thanos Lockjaw is already the best deck in the game. I don't think it gets that much better. I'm not sure it gets better at all. I'm not sure if anything changes because of this. Already is. The next change is, in my opinion, a super big deal, because Sandman going from a 4-1 to a 5-5 now makes him much more synergistic with the card Electro. Electro lets you play Sandman on turn 4. He has more power now. So you go Electro into Sandman, you do some pretty unfair stuff because your deck is built for that scenario and their deck is not built for that scenario. So this, I think, is pretty compelling. The issue I think it may have is, once it is clear what you are doing, you're playing, you know, Electro into Sandman, decks like Thanos are able to sort of spam the board early, and then late, they will play big units just like you're playing. So it's not a strategy that I think matches up as well into what I consider the top dog of the meta as you might think. But it's all right. Like, I think Sandman will end up being significantly better than he was. I don't know if that's enough to make him a competitive deck, but I know people love the play style of Sandman enough that they will try. So I think that's probably okay. I think we should be afraid if Sandman gets a little too strong. Sandman getting too strong would probably be a bad thing for the metagame, in my opinion. I do not think it would be ideal for Sandman to be a dominant strategy here. So there are also several other changes that are just strict number buffs. Spider-Woman is going from a 5-7 to a 5-8. Namor is going from a 4-5 to a 4-6. Dagger is going from a 2-1 to a 2-2. All these are good changes. Those cards are not cards that see play. Great idea to make them a little bit stronger. Spider-Woman especially is now one of the stronger 5-drops in the game, with a total effective power of about 12. That's pretty damn good if you play her on a full lane. The issue is she still does cost 5, and I think a lot of decks that play Spider-Woman just play her in a, like, she's the only big card in your board, your fill the board deck. And I think her power doesn't matter so much in that situation. So maybe there's a home for Spider-Woman outside of the obvious archetype that I think could use her in a better way than those decks. Namor, I have no read on. He might end up being actually pretty plausible in terms of just, you know, I'm going to dedicate 4 energy to just hold down this lane for a while. it's not as bad as he's not as bad as he sounds, honestly. Namor's pretty decent with this buff. And Dagger, Move, I think, is actually a relatively underrated archetype. Dagger is one of the cards that has the highest variance in that archetype. Bringing up her floor a little bit is a good thing for the deck. I don't know if it's a good enough thing for the deck that it will be a dominant force in the metagame. What this tells me, what these changes tell me, is that if I were looking to innovate right now, I would be trying to play an Electro Sandman deck. If I were looking to play the best deck right now, I would be playing a Thanos Lockjaw deck. If I wanted to play Darkhawk, the reason would be to target Thanos decks, put rocks in the deck, play the Darkhawk. He's a very big guy. That would be the idea for me. As far as Spider-Woman, I would want to experiment with her outside of her traditional have some crap shell. Dagger, of course, goes in a move deck. Namor, I think, will take some time to figure out. If you are ever in a situation where you're like, I really don't want to commit to a lane, I just want to play one card there and not worry about it, I think he's better than one might think. The issue, of course, is he is astoundingly vulnerable to Shang-Chi, and nothing that really anyone can do about it changes it. It's a tough spot to be that vulnerable to Shang-Chi, especially if you're counting on him to win a lane, which he will not do if they play Shang-Chi. So, other than that, I think that sums it all up for me. Play Sandman Electro if you're looking for something spicy. Play Thanos Lockjaw if you're looking for something great. You can still play Darkhawk to try to target the Thanos Lockjaw decks. I'm not sure how efficiently you can do that, but it is the first place my brain goes with that. And I will see you in the next